Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the V1 Sports webinar featuring V1 Game, how to track shots and analyze data. We're going to record this webinar. It will be posted on the V1 Sports YouTube channel in a few days after Anna edits it. Please share any questions that you have in the chat window, and we'll do our best to answer them. We've received a lot of questions already. Dallas is already going to get to those. If we don't get to your question, feel free to email it over to support@v1sports.com. I am super excited to introduce and brag about Dallas Webster. Dallas has been working at Texas Instruments for 14 years. He is an avid and very, very good golfer. You will see that in the data that he presents today. He is also an admitted data geek. He said it, not me. Years ago, Dallas started tracking his data in a spreadsheet, and he gained a lot of really great insight about his game. The data was clumsy and hard to deal with and just in a spreadsheet, so his buddy Ryan Herbert and him developed an app. V1 Sports found the app, and we're thrilled that we were able to scoop Dallas and Ryan up and partner with them, and they are now a part of our V1 Sports team. Dallas, thank you so much for your genius app. Thank you for sharing it with us, and thank you for presenting it to all of our guests today. I will turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mandy, and thanks for everyone for joining. I'll go ahead and share my desktop as I'm going to walk through some slides quickly and then get into actually using the app, how I use the app, and what hopefully you guys can get out of it as well. So today we're going to cover how do you track shots, analyze some of the results, show you some of the power of what we can do after you get some data in there and you've tracked your rounds. But first, I guess we'll say it's been a busy summer for V1 Game, lots of users all over the US and the world. So what you're looking at is courses that have been played in V1 Game in the last 90 days. So lots of activity. Thanks for using it so far. And let's continue to grow and get our friends using it. So a little bit about V1 Game. As Mandy mentioned, it was created by myself and my good buddy, Ryan Herbert. Really, how it started was we're two avid golfers, love the game. We were trying to get better, and we were frustrated with kind of inefficient practice and maybe not improving as much as we wanted or as quickly as we wanted. Around this time is when Mark Brody published his Every Shot Counts book. And so leveraging that, again, I wrote a spreadsheet and was doing it, and we decided to turn it into an app. And that's what V1 Game is today. It's kind of the evolution of that app that's really kind of 4 years in the making to get it to where it is now. Between the two of us, over the last several years, we've won 15 Golf Channel events. Now, those are flighted events, so don't get too excited, but we do put what we're doing here to use and use it both to practice and to even track our performance in those tournaments. Myself, I'm about a 2 handicap. I've got a 6-year-old and now about a 4.5-month-old at home. So trust me, tools like V1 Game are critical for myself to be able to improve my golf game while actually practicing less. And I'm going to show my real data, real rounds that I've played, and I think you'll see that that does ring true. I have been able to play better and really heavily using what I get out of V1 Game myself. Ryan, my buddy, is also an avid golfer, 10 handicap with his 2 young daughters. So again, the emphasis there is how do we practice less and play better, and how do we get the most out of the time that we can spend on the golf course? So for those of you that don't know, maybe there's some new users here, some coaches that haven't quite seen it or had the chance to use it yet. What is V1 Game? Well, it starts as a golf GPS, right? We're going to help you get distances, get familiar with the golf course when you're on it, but really it's so much more than that. V1 Game is going to analyze every facet of your game and really help you understand what you need to work on to make that biggest impact with what we all care about most, and that's score. So V1 Game is essentially shot length for amateurs. I'll show you a little bit what that looks like. But our entire goal is to give you actionable data and measurable results. So we want to give you information that directly translates to game improvement, so you know what to work on. And then we also have the tools to help you measure your progress. So you're not just wailing away, staying at the same handicap level. We'll let you measure the individual components that are going to help you become that better player. For the coaches that are online, look, this is kind of a twofold approach. We've got a coach app for coaches to see how your players play, and the V1 Game app is what the players actually use to collect their data while they're on the golf course. So this is kind of a joint solution. Today, we're going to focus on the game side, what the players are going to do, what individual players will do to track their game and get their stats into the system. But do know that for coaches, And for players that are looking for coaches, we have a way to connect that data so that when you do go get lessons or you're giving lessons, it's tied to the on-course performance and you're working on the right things to help that player or help yourself improve as quickly as possible. So first, I wanted to talk about a few new features here in the app that some of you may or may not be aware of, things we've added recently. So the first being swing detection on the Apple Watch. So now for our Apple Watch users, if you're out there playing with it, when you take a swing, it's actually going to detect that swing and improve our automatic shot tracking and artificial intelligence even further than it was before. Score entry. So this came out kind of in the middle of the summer, but now you can track score without necessarily just tracking shots, but that score entry also allows our artificial intelligence to make the shot tracking process as simple as possible. And I'll give a demo and show you what that looks like here in a few minutes. Automatic shot detection. So this came out kind of in the June timeframe, May timeframe, I think. And this was the first step where we started using sensors on the phone to really track where you're going, track where you're spending on time, if you're standing up, if you're sitting down, and start making the process of shot tracking much easier. Before it was a manual process, we've got it about as simple as it can get in the current version of the app on the App Store. The next two, let me see if I can hide these videos. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm sharing here. Zoom will show me my mouse. Well, maybe I can't do that, but that's Virtual Caddie. We're going to go over it in detail here in a minute anyway. But Virtual Caddie is brand new, only a few weeks old, and Virtual Caddie is going to take your past performance into account. It's now taking real-time weather and elevation into account to tell you your plays-like distance and to give you a club suggestion based on your performance and how you hit your clubs once you've done some shot tracking. Lastly is Virtual Coach. Virtual Coach is our latest and greatest way to make the data as easy to digest as possible. So as Mandy said, I'm a self-confessed data nerd. I love data analytics. Not everybody does. And staring at charts, staring at plots, trying to figure out what you're supposed to take out of it can be frustrating for some and of little value. Virtual Coach kind of cuts through all that. You collect the data, we're actually going to analyze it with some artificial intelligence, and we're going to tell you exactly what to work on. So in this case, work on approach first, next work on putting. We're going to tell you where you're missing and kind of fast track you to what you're supposed to get out of the data rather than just making you sift through it yourself. These are some new features. All of these I plan to touch on today in the live demo here in a few minutes. So how does it work? V1 Game tracks your golf in the same way that ShotLink tracks PGA Tour players when they play. So for those that might not be familiar, in just about every PGA Tour event, the PGA Tour enlists a bunch of volunteers to go to the ShotLink system, and they're measuring where players are on the golf course with lasers and GPS and tracking every shot, every lie that the player hits from. So they know exactly how far players are hitting their drivers, their irons, how many putts they're taking from what distances. They know all of that. Well, V1 Game is essentially the equivalent for amateurs. We're going to track your location just like ShotLink does. And what that means is just about anything they can calculate on the PGA Tour, we can calculate in V1 Game. So when you're watching a PGA Tour telecast and they're telling you so-and-so hasn't three-putted for 80 holes, yeah, we know that too. And we can give you that data for yourself. How many greens you hit from certain locations. We have all that information in the same way the PGA Tour does. And of course, strokes gained. So for those of you that aren't familiar with strokes gained, I'll share like a quick summary of what strokes gained is and why it's important here in a minute. So quick misconceptions on shot tracking. These are things we commonly hear with people that maybe are overwhelmed or not ready to dive in with an app such as this. First one being, I don't want to have my phone out. I'm trying to escape on the golf course. The last thing I want to do is be connected to that day job and to everything else that's going on. With our new V1 Game and auto shot tracking, you can literally put your phone away and just play golf, either in your back pocket or in a golf cart. You can put it away and focus on what you're doing and never pull your phone out if you don't need it. If you do need a yardage or something, it's right there for you as well, but you don't have to have your phone out with our solution. Shot tracking takes too much time. I don't want to impact the pace of play. Again, with our new automatic shot tracking and even with the watch swing detection, you don't ever have to track a shot while you're on the golf course. You don't ever have to pull your phone out or push a button if you don't want to. I can't remember my shots, so how am I supposed to do the shot tracking even after the fact? The beautiful thing about where V1 Game is today is you don't have to remember your shots. We've got breadcrumbs showing you where you went. We've got suggested shot locations. And again, with the swing detection, we know exactly where you took swings if you have an Apple Watch. But if you simply enter your scores, we're going to get you a long way, and you don't have to remember your individual shots that you hit with our current system. Next, there's too much editing. There's really as little or as much editing as you want. If you want to input your rounds completely from home, you can do that. If you want to just use swing detection, or if you want to use the manual swing entry on the watch, there's no editing required at all. So really, we think we have a good solution that's not going to lead to too much editing, depending on which way you go. Traditional stats are just fine. I don't need all this. It's too confusing. The reality is traditional stats don't correlate to score. If you're used to tracking fairways and greens and putts, the best of those is greens. But outside of greens, almost none of that actually correlates to score. And so tracking those things and using those to improve your game is not necessarily going to get you the results that you want. And then lastly, I don't like my phone in my pocket. We're going to keep telling you to put your phone in your pocket. And I don't like to do that. You don't have to carry your phone with you. In this case, particularly with our latest watch updates, you can leave your phone in your golf bag. You can leave it in a golf cart. The watch will make that solution better because it'll use the watch GPS. But if you don't have a watch, or if you're on Android and you just want to leave your phone in your golf cart or your golf bag, the app will still work. We'll still do shot tracking. There is a little more editing in that situation, but we have a solution for whatever your flow is on the golf course to make shot tracking a part of your golf game. So one last slide maybe here in terms of why use V1 Game. The best are using it. If you look at Justin Thomas as an example, right? So he's been #1 in the world, I think a couple times now. But each year he tends to publish his goals, as you see there on the bottom right. And what you'll see is, about half of his goals are, say, results-based, but he has several very specific statistics-based goals in terms of scoring average, strokes gained putting, driving accuracy, those types of things. The only place you're going to get them is with an app like V1 Game, right? And it's important to have those goals because sometimes not everything correlates to score. You may be improving your driving, but still struggling to score. V1 Game gives you the ability to measure the things you're working on in addition to just the score. All right, last slide before we dive into the demo, I think. What is strokes gained? Because we are going to be talking about this a bit today. Strokes gained really is just a reference for performance. So the simplest example that most people would give is on the putting green. A PGA Tour pro makes an 8-foot putt approximately 50% of the time, right? So half the time they're going to make it, half the time they're going to miss it. Another way to say that same fact is that on average, it takes a PGA Tour pro 1.5 strokes to get in the hole from 8 feet. So if you look at it that way, then every time you make an 8-foot putt, you gain a half a stroke on a PGA Tour pro, right? You did a half a stroke better than they would from the same situation. And every time you miss it, you lose a half a stroke on a PGA Tour pro. That same methodology or thought process can actually happen from anywhere on the golf course. If you're 150 yards out, let's say we know that it takes 2.8 strokes on average to get in the hole, just throwing a number out there. If you do better than that and do it in 2 strokes, you're gaining. If you do worse than that and say take 3 or 4 strokes, you're losing strokes. When you aggregate all of that information, that's where you really get strokes gained. In V1 Game, we break that performance into categories to help you know where to practice. Those really 4 categories are driving, which is all tee shots that occur on par 4s and par 5s. We consider driving performance. Then short game performance is all shots inside 75 yards that are not on the green. Putting is all shots on the green. And approach is basically everything else. You'll hear one more category that they talk about on the PGA Tour and that we have referenced in a few plots in V1 Game called tee to green. And tee to green is really everything but putting, driving plus approach plus short game. But in a nutshell, that's what strokes gained is. It's just a reference of how well you did. In V1 Game, we take that reference beyond a PGA Tour pro. We can compare you from anything from a Tour pro to a 25 handicap for both males and females so that you can find a reference that fits your game. When you're looking at stats, it's comparing you to something that makes sense and not depressing you with how far you are away from making the big time. All right, with that, I'm going to dive into maybe a little bit of a demo here. I've got V1 Game running here. This is my real account. Now, this is in a simulator, so bear with me there. And I've got the watch app kind of running side by side. So those of you that either have a watch or don't have a watch can see how that works. But at the surface level, so I have the fully unlocked Eagle subscription, so I'll show you some of those stats as well. But to show you, this is my real account, right? So I've been using this app for over 4 years. And if I go to the review section, it's going to pull up every round that I've tracked in this system. And I have 160 some odd rounds in the last 4 years that are tracked in here. And while my recent scores are pretty good, I can go back here and you can see that not all my scores are good. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how I've used V1 Game to improve my own performance here. One question while I'm sitting here is a lot of times we get questions on, well, how do I delete a round if I don't want it? So I'll just go ahead and show you that real quick. If you're looking at this table on either the Apple or the Android app, a simple swipe will bring up the delete option. And then you can choose whether you want to delete it locally, which means you can get it back if you need, or whether you want to delete it permanently. In this case, I'll delete that round permanently and it's gone. If I want to relive any of these performances or get some data, so I could look at, this is actually a tournament I played this Sunday. I can click on that round and I can either see the full hole by hole shots that I hit. I can go look at the scorecard, or I can look at the post round summary. To show you that shot link perspective, I'll go into hole by hole real quick and show you what it looks like when you're done tracking around. So when I'm done, it's got every shot that I hit, where I hit it. If I tracked clubs, it's going to tell me what club I hit. It's going to tell me how far that shot went. It's got records of, in this case, I 3-putted from 33 feet. If I click on any individual shot, it's going to give me the statistics relative to that shot. So I could go back here hole by hole and see what I did, where I went, and where my shots went, right? If I tilt the screen, I can get the scorecard. The scorecard's going to have your traditional stats like fairways, greens. I can scroll through this. If I click on any individual hole, one cool thing about our scorecard is it'll then show what I did. So for instance, if I forget, how did I make bogey on hole number 11? A simple click will show me where I got into trouble, maybe around the green. If I needed to zoom in, I could zoom in and figure that out. Another cool feature on our scorecard for our birdie and up subscriptions is the strokes gained heat map. So I can actually click on this and it's going to kind of give me an idea for driving, approach, short game, and putting, how I did throughout the round. So I can see, for instance, if I started to fade red, maybe I got tired at the end of the round or didn't play as well. Or if I finished strong with some green on there, it gives you an idea of where you did well or poorly throughout the round with that strokes gained performance. So that's our scorecard. Anytime you're done playing around, when you leave, you're going to get our post-round summary. So the first couple times you play, you'll get a post-round summary. And then after that, the post-round summary requires a par or further subscription. So one of the cool things we added recently as well is course records. So you'll see in this case, I shot a 76, actually set the course record for Fossil Creek, which is kind of cool. The V1 Game course record, I should say. And we keep track of your best record on every golf course. And then we also keep track of the V1 Game community record on each golf course. Your post-round summary, if you're a birdie or more subscriber moving forward, it'll give you your strokes gained. But we take it that next level as well and really break down each component to give you an idea of what you should be working on. So in this case, I set up my account to compare myself to a scratch. And you'll notice I shot a 76. I lost most of the strokes putting relative to a scratch handicap. V1 Game takes it to that next level, though, and it's going to give me some details on relative to my performance, what I did well or poorly. So even though I gained strokes here for short game, that was actually a bad day for me. Usually I gain more around the greens than I did. And so it's going to break that down for me. I only got up and down 33% of the time. Usually I'm a little better than that. My average proximity was 14 feet. So I struggled a little bit around the greens compared to what I normally do. And I had an average putting day. So even though you saw that I lost 1.8 strokes to a scratch handicap, I almost always lose strokes on the green to a scratch handicap. So this is an average day for me, but it is going to highlight where I can improve. So during this day, I missed 4 putts inside 6 feet. So really I should probably be working on the short ones, and I had 2 3-putts. So quick, digestible information, even in my post-round summary on what I could be working on. I go to my driving now. I tended to favor the right, but overall a pretty good day for me. I didn't make any driving errors. This is our post-round summary. So quick, digestible piece of information after every time you play. so that you can look at these and see how they trend over time and impact your performance. In this case, a great approach day for me, but I did tend to miss left and short. So that might be something that I want to keep an eye on as I continue to play. So I'm going to leave the post-round summary and start diving into some of our other features that subscriptions enable. The first one being the analyze section. So this is behind our Birdie subscription, but what the analyzed function is the ability to get kind of do-it-yourself analytics. We'll give you charts, we'll give you information, and then you can figure out what you want to do with it. Additionally, in the analyze section, you can add friends. You can check out our demo if you want to see what the data looks like for somebody before you've played a bunch of rounds. If you have a coach, or if you play competitively and you're on a team, you can actually join a team so that you can see your teammates' progress, or so that you can feed this data to your coach and they can see your data as well. But if I click on my account, what you'll see now, this strokes gained summary is not for my last round. It's actually for how many rounds I have filtered, which right now I have it looking at my last 20 rounds that I've played. So this is my strokes gained data. And if I look at it from a strengths and weaknesses perspective, it's going to tell me my real weakness is with irons. I tend to lose the most strokes relative to that scratch handicap with irons. Second thing is this is configurable. So if I did want to go change that reference, I'm comparing myself to a scratch now. Let's say I was chasing a 5 handicap. I can do that. And it's going to go change this to now compare me to that 5 handicap. And you'll notice now my irons are better than a 5 handicap, but my putting still needs work. We go back to a scratch. So the rest of the data continues to kind of make sense. But so in this analyze section, again, unlocked with the Birdie subscription, you have some simple, easy to digest stats like greens per round, fairways per round, but all of these individual icons are interactive. So for instance, if I go to personal bests, it's going to show me records like what you might see on the PGA Tour. What's my best round? What's my worst round? How many holes have I played? Shots hit? What's my par or better streak? Most holes in a row without a 3-putt. So kind of giving me some fun things to either compete with myself with or compete with friends with in terms of those personal bests. This is telling me that I struggle with irons. One of my favorite plots to go look at irons is this shot distribution. So if I pull that up, you'll get a little pop-up that tells you a little information about what you're about to look at. Again, this is kind of our do-it-yourself stats, but I can go see from any distance here. You'll see as I scroll through, it's changing the distance bucket where I'm looking at shots, but I can see kind of the shotgun map of where those shots go, and then a summary over here of my performance from that distance. So for myself, how I like to use this is if I scroll, getting further from the hole, what you'll notice is I start to miss left and short. So that's something that I want to keep an eye on. And if I'm working with a teaching professional, that's something I might point out to him. Hey, I'm missing a lot of my shots short and left the further I get from the hole. So is it a lie angle of my clubs? Is it a grip? Is it a swing fault? Like, why am I missing left and short? And I can either work on it in my lessons, in my practice, or I can also use that in course management and say, hey, I'm 175 yards from the hole. I know I tend to miss left and short. There's a lake there. So I want to make sure I'm aiming right and long. I want to make sure I make the right decision there when I'm on the golf course. That's the proximity plot. I'll skip the putting plot because I'm going to show it in Virtual Coach here in a minute. The club information. So here, this is where, if you're familiar with maybe some of our competitors, you'll get full analysis of each club that you hit when you track, how far you hit it, the median distance you hit it, your max, your min, kind of a distribution or a box plot, if you're familiar with that, of the distances that you hit with any given clubs. But we go beyond just how far you hit the clubs. We can show you how close you tend to hit those clubs. So you'll see that with the longer clubs, I start to hit it further from the hole, 82 feet, let's say on median. We have accuracy. So how likely are you to hit the green when you select that club? We have driving information. How often are you likely to hit the fairway when you select that club off the tee? And then even scoring. What do you score on average when you tee off with that club? So lots of information with club level data as you kind of track those shots. And there's plenty more behind here. Again, you can feel free to check it all out by clicking this demo button and downloading the data from one of our real accounts. And you can really kind of dive in and see what we have to offer there. If you opt for our Eagle subscription, you're going to get 2 new features that we're pretty proud of. One being Virtual Coach, the second being Virtual Caddie. So if I dive into Virtual Coach to show you The intent of virtual coach is we're still giving you data, but unlike in the birdie option or the analyze section where really you've got to go look at those plots and kind of figure out what's going on, virtual coach does that for you. It does the analysis for you with kind of our artificial intelligence. So at a starting point, it's going to tell me that I currently average shooting a 76.6, but I could be shooting as low as a 71.9. And it's basing that on basically course management type of issues, mistakes that I make while playing. And those mistakes are divided into things like 3 putts, penalties, and 2 chips, right? So if I just eliminated kind of these big errors, I could really be, below a scratch handicap playing very well. Every plot that you see in both the analyze section and virtual coach, again, is interactive. So if I want to know more about my potential and I click on it, it's going to tell me my average score, how many mistakes I make, and I can either dismiss that, or if I want to dive in, I can dive in deeper and go to see details. And in the details here, it's going to start showing me my mistakes. So mistakes really impact your score, scorecard records, whatever you want to call them. And then it's going to break down what I'm doing on a round per round basis. So it's going to tell me on average, I'm making 5 mistakes per round. And I can improve by minimizing penalties first because I have 1.8 penalties per round. It's going to show me my worst performance mistakes wise. I made 12 mistakes in this round. I probably didn't shoot very good. And then my best round, I had 0 mistakes, right? But so fast tracking me to insights with that Eagle subscription, where rather than me staring at this saying, what do I get out of this? It's going to tell me what I need to get out of it. Again, each plot is interactive to where I can click on any of these bars to see what it's showing me. And if I click on that review button, it'll actually take me to that round at Cowboys to show me the shot-by-shot version of how I got there. If I return to that virtual coach profile, you'll see that, again, each of these are interactive. If I click on it, it's going to give me a quick summary of what I need to work on. So I'm losing most of my strokes between 3 and 10 feet.
Hey, Dallas.
Yeah.
Dallas, you brushed quickly past a question, and it's a really great question right there on that screen. Someone asked, why was your putting better against scratch than a 5 handicap? Can you go back to that?
Yeah. So the reason why my putting is maybe the difference between a scratch handicap and a 5 handicap in terms of putting is less than the gap between a scratch handicap with irons and a 5 handicap with irons. So what the data is telling me is not necessarily that, sorry, I'm trying to phrase this in the right way. What it's telling me is the gap between me and a scratch is bigger with irons than it is with the putter. When I switch it to a 5 handicap, it's telling me the gap between me and a 5 handicap is bigger with the putter than it is with the irons. I'm weaker putting compared to a 5 handicap than I am putting compared to a scratch. It's not telling you that a 5 handicap puts better than a scratch handicap. What it's doing, again, it's comparing my game to that reference and how I do relative to that reference. Another way to say that is if you compared, say, a 5 handicap to a PGA Tour player, the biggest gap or the closest area in performance is going to be putting, right? A 5 handicap is much more likely to putt like a PGA Tour pro than hit their irons like a PGA Tour pro. So what you saw there was as I changed my reference, it's shifting to what my gap is versus a scratch handicap, and that gap is irons, not putting.
Hopefully Great answer. Thank you, Dallas. Thank you.
Hopefully that clears that up. It's certainly not saying that a 5 handicap is a better putter than a scratch. It's just saying my gap in performance is bigger for putting when I compare myself to that 5 handicap.
Cool. One more quick one, and then I'm hoping you're going to touch on penalties because there's a lot of questions coming on penalties. But someone said previous tracking apps have really killed the phone battery. Does V1 Game take a lot of battery?
So battery is always dependent on your use case. If you're using our auto shot tracking kind of technique and putting it in your pocket, then it's going to have a very minimal impact on your battery. The biggest impact to any phone battery is having the screen on. So if you have the screen on and you're looking at it and you're constantly pulling it out and getting yardages, that's where the phone battery is going to be impacted the most. Typically when I play, now look, I have an iPhone XS, just for reference. And if I play around a golf, in that 5 hours, it takes between maybe 20 to 30% of the battery. I do want to, I guess, clarify there on the watch side, that's a little bit different. Our particular watch app gives you two different options, but if you want the swing detection, it can be hard on a watch battery. It'll still make it through the round, but you need to make sure your watch is charged before you're going to play a round of golf, because with the newer watches, it'll take roughly 50% of your watch battery to get through a 5-hour golf round. If you have an older watch, like a Series 2, it'll struggle to get through it at all if you use our latest and greatest feature. And that's why we have a low power mode. So we actually have a low power mode on our watch that'll enable you to save that battery. It'll turn off some of the swing detection features, unfortunately, but it'll allow that Series 2 to make it through the round and more. But yeah, so phone battery, it does depend on your use case a little bit, but in your best case, if you're mainly putting it in your pocket or your golf bag and using the auto shot feature, it should have a minimal impact on your battery throughout the round.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. And there's some questions about penalties. I'll circle back at the end if you don't cover them as you continue. Thank you.
Okay, maybe that's so I want to make sure that we have time to go through how you actually track shots and log those penalties. Maybe that's what some of the questions are around.
Maybe, yeah.
Questions there. So we'll get through it. So what the virtual coach here does is it's fast tracking you to improvement. So it's telling me, without me looking at the data and trying to understand it, it's saying, hey, work on approach first, work on putting next. That's how I should prioritize my practice. And if I want to know more, I want to dive into that, say, okay, what should I work on in approach? Again, it's interactive. If I tap on it, it's going to take me to an approach histogram. This is showing me from each yardage bucket. The histogram is telling me which shots I hit the most often. So the shots I hit the most often are from 126 to 150 yards. And it's going to tell me where I'm gaining or losing the most strokes. So I hit 200-yard plus shots fairly often based on the histogram. And the virtual coach is telling me that that's where I lose the most strokes. So I should get better at not putting myself in bad positions from that distance. Next is the 126-yard to 150-yard bucket. And then it's going to tell me which shots I hit the most, which are less than 30 yards. So if I'm trying to gauge my practice, it's going to tell me I've got 2 buckets where I might want to spend more time, because that's where a lot of the shots I hit come from. And when I do hit some of these other shots, I tend to actually perform a little better. Now, if I want to dive into this and say, okay, what am I doing from 126 to 150 yards? It's all interactive. I can actually click on this and I can say review, and it's going to take me right to what I showed you kind of previously with the analyze section, where it's going to show me not only, it's going to show me where my shots are going and where I'm missing. So now I can use that to focus specifically on a particular task or thing I want to get better at. I'll show you our putting real quick. It's similar. If I want to dive in on this, again, this gives me a little blurb about what I'm looking at. But the quick summary is we're going from 3 feet to 50 feet in chunks. And then the red is 3 putts, the blue is 2 putts, the green is your 1 putt percentage. But our virtual coach is going to kind of steamroll through all of that and cut me straight to the chase, cut me straight to what I need to work on. It's going to say, hey, you're losing the most strokes from 6 to 10 feet. Go focus on those putts. And then next, you should be working from 3 to 6 feet. So I can leave this plot knowing exactly that I need to be working on my putting from 3 to 10 feet. That's where I'm giving away strokes. Between the two, I'm giving over, well over 1 stroke around that I could be shaving if I just go focus on a better performance from there. It's going to tell me where I'm 3 putting. So again, I can go focus that putting practice in the right areas with easy to digest information. We told you that the results were measurable, so I can literally go see if I'm improving or declining in certain fields. If I click on declining, for example, it's going to tell me right now I'm declining with my driving performance. I can click see details if I want to see that chart. I told you I've been practicing less and using V1 Game. It's showing. I'm improving in a lot of areas in my game right now. Hopefully that's not just a coincidence that we're having this webinar, but if I click on it, it's going to start to show it to me. So if I look at my strokes gained total, I'm trending upwards. You can see that my consistency is not great. I'm over the place, but lately I've had a more consistent result and I'm trending up. I scroll to tee to green performance, similar. I see that trend up. So if I'm focusing on something like, let's say short game with my coach, or I'm focusing on practice, I can make sure that things are trending in the right direction and that practice is paying off with virtual coach. Again, if you don't want to pay attention to what we're telling you to work on up here, the coaches, you can dive into any piece of your game and we'll give you feedback on what you can improve on any part of your game. Our new Course Explorer is a fun feature for those that might want to understand more a coach. You can go search any course in our database and pull it up. If golfers have already played that golf course, then eventually it's going to show you the community results. In this case, there's a lot of results, so it's going to take a little while to pull up. But it'll tell you what that course record is, how many times it's been played, and that average. If you want to see just your performance, you can click there, and I can see where I've hit shots and where I've scored on this golf course. If you're about to play it and you want to measure tee boxes and make plans, you can kind of click around and get yardages to kind of get an idea of how you might play this golf course. So in this case, now the community is loaded, so it'll tell you how many times this hole's been played, where people have hit it, and what they've scored. So kind of a nice way to preview a golf course if our members have played it and see where other people have hit their shots and how they've done. That's the Course Explorer. Next, I guess in Virtual Coach, I'll show one more thing here, and that's records. So this is a neat feature that we added recently, but basically for every course that I've played, it'll show me what my personal best is, how many times I've played it, what my average is on that golf course. And then if you click on one, let's see, I think there was one where I don't have the record, where more people have played it. But if you click on, each golf course, it's going to also tell you what the community course record is. So in this case, it's 79. I happen to own the course record in V1 game for that golf course. But like if I go to Fox Hollow, I shot a 79, but the course record is a 77. So maybe I want to go back out there and try to set the V1 game course record. And that's Virtual Coach. With that, I want to pivot into actually, how do you get this data in? So hopefully by now you're convinced that there's some value if you track shots. You're going to have a way to improve and a way to understand your game in a new way. Now I want to jump into how would you actually use it on the golf course. So I'm going to re-kick this off to get the GPS where I want it. But when you're ready to go play around, once the app loads, any minute now, you'll click on play. It's going to go find nearby golf courses. If you want to search for a golf course, you can use our search function. Less words is better for the search function to work properly. But in this case, let's say I'm playing Heritage Ranch. It'll ask you what type of round you're playing. This is really for the data perspective, because you can sort to just tournaments or whatever you need to there. I'm going to choose casual. And here we go. So you got a simulated GPS location where I'm on the tee box. It is a GPS app. If I tap anywhere, if I drag this around, it's going to give me yardages to anywhere I need. To drag many of the things that are draggable, you just long press it until the map shifts a little bit, and then you can drag it to wherever you need to get that yardage. For this, you can also just tap on something like a tree to see how far away it is. If you tap on the target, it'll dismiss it. You see the watch is also over here giving me live yardages. Let's say if I'm on the tee box and I need to know what club to hit, I can also use our new virtual Caddie. Click on this anywhere on the golf course, and it's going to give me an idea of what club I should hit based on my stats, what it's actually playing like with the wind and elevation, right? Give me some information. It's downhill 10 yards. The wind is strong and hurting in this case. You'll notice that in this case, it predicted a shot. That's what the white marker is. Again, it's using a combination of sensors there to do that shot prediction. And then as I get closer to the hole, if I use virtual Caddie again, just to kind of show that off, you'll notice that now it's also showing me what I do from this location around the green. So it's giving me a club suggestion based on the real world conditions right now, but it's also showing me where I tend to miss. So maybe I can use this information and say, yep, I need to take more club. I need to make sure I don't leave this short because that's my tendency from this location. If I don't agree with the club choice, or if I want to see what my other options are, I can start to scroll through here, and it's going to give me other options of other clubs that I might use from that distance. Now, for those of you that may have used our auto shot detection before, you'll notice in general, I think we do a pretty good job, but sometimes we might predict too many shots. We might not predict enough shots. Kind of depends on what kind of player you are. If you're in a golf cart, if you're playing with somebody else, if you tend to play very fast and it takes you 5 seconds to hit a ball versus somebody that takes a minute to hit a ball, those are going to impact your auto shot tracking. However, we have ways to improve that and to make us more accurate. So this button, or this area down here is actually a button that brings up our menu. And so I can do things like go into preferences in this case, and maybe I want to tune my auto shot detection. So I can change my shot sensitivity from a fast player, very fast player, normal to deliberate player. So this will end up with more shots detected. This is less shots detected. If you're in a situation like this where I'm playing in a cart, I'm sharing it with somebody and I'm about to hit the next score, you're going to see how our auto shot detection finds shots. But if you're running into an area where you're having to do too much editing and we're picking the wrong locations, you can also dismiss these before you put in your score. So I'll show you what that looks like. Let's say that this wasn't me. I was helping my partner find his ball and I did not hit a shot over here. That's simple to dismiss. I can just click on it and I can say, no, I didn't hit a shot from there. And it goes away. And now it's got just the predicted shots. So it's going to use these when it applies the artificial intelligence, let's say. On the watch side, of course, I can change the hole with the watch very simply. This button here will move the flag to wherever you're standing, right? If you want to move the flag on your watch, just tap it from your wrist. Let's see, I don't remember if I have this set to score. Okay, so in this case, I have this set to shot tracking to where if I tap on the button, it's going to ask me what club I hit. If I say I hit driver, it's going to mark my location with the driver. That would be the manual way to track a shot from your watch. Let's see, if I need to make an edit, so let's say I didn't really hit my driver from here, I can quickly hit this pencil button to bring up our edit menu. And in this case, I could change the club, I could change the lie by tapping on any of these, or in this case, I just want to delete that shot and say it didn't happen, and the shot will go away. So now that I've had some shots kind of tracked, you see the breadcrumbs of where I went on this golf hole, shot tracking or entering your shots becomes super easy. Basically, I'll say next hole, it'll ask me what I scored. Say in this case, I scored a 4, I 2-putted, and your starting distance, say I 2-putted from 20 feet. When I save that, it's going to take me to the next hole. But if I go back, you'll notice that those predicted shots now turned into actual shot locations where it tracked those shots happening. It's already done the work for me. And this will lead to, I open the scorecard, for instance, it's already got stats in terms of fairways, greens, and it started to do the work for me. And all I did was put in my score there. Now, in some cases, I won't say the system's perfect, or if you have penalties, there may be some adjustments you need to make. It's very easy to edit this either after the fact, maybe sitting from home. If you need to move any shot, simple, you just grab it. Again, long press, you'll see the screen shifts a little bit and just pull it to where it needs to go, right? So in this case, I moved that to a tee box. The system recognized that and changed that to a tee shot. Let's say I need to, and you're seeing this blue line repeat over itself since I have this on a loop. We'll get out of this in just a second. Let's say I had a penalty and I wanted to add a penalty. We have this P button over here that'll quickly add a penalty. In this case, it's going to add it to my current location. But let's say I had the penalty off the tee box and I hit it into this junk before dropping. I can, again, I just long pressed and dragged it to there. Now I've marked my penalty. I'm happy with that. But what you'll notice is the shots are out of order. I added it as my 5th shot after I already had 4 shots there. Simple edits like that are actually really easy to change. Again, click on the edit button. It'll bring up that full list of shots. But what I just told you was that penalty was really my 2nd shot, not my 5th. So I'll just grab it, drag it to where it needs to go, and I'm done. And what you'll notice is it fixed everything, right? Now this is my 3rd shot. This is how the hole actually went down. If you want to track clubs from the phone, if you don't have a watch, the watch makes it even easier. I'll show that in a minute. But if you do want to track clubs from the phone, it's super simple there too. I just tap on this marker and it'll bring up my club selection menu. And I can say, yep, I hit a 3-wood off the tee. And from here, I hit a pitching wedge and I'm ready to then go to the next hole. One thing that maybe is not obvious, it is in our quick carousel when you start around, but if you want to change holes quickly and not go through this score menu here, we do have a shortcut where you just, from the edge of the screen, drag to either side and you can change holes very quickly without having to go through that score menu as you play. Okay, I'm going to actually exit this real quick, delete this round, and I'm going to turn on a secret setting real quick to load what it would look like if you had actually played with our full auto shot tracking. So you can actually see what it looks like in the simplest case and talk through kind of that watch functionality. So this is a debug mode that's not going to be available to our users in terms of getting this option to load fake data. but this is real data that is from one of our rounds.
Dallas, while you're setting that up, leave yourself at least 10 minutes to answer questions. There is a stack of the best questions ever in the chat window.
Perfect. So this hopefully won't take long, but what I'm showing you now is what it looks like when you've played a full round. So what you'll notice going hole by hole now is I have these shot detections. I've got the breadcrumbs where the shots actually are. And effectively, this is what it would look like if you had a watch, you started a round, you put your phone in your pocket or put it away, and you played and never looked at the app again, right? Until you were completely done playing. So I'm done playing for the day. I'm sitting at my house and I want to go actually now put in my shots so that I can get the data at the outset. What you'll notice is now these shots are different colors. So when they're grayed out, that's when our AI says, it might be a shot, but we don't think it was because you might have been sitting down in a golf cart or something like that. The green dots are where the watch detected it and said, yeah, this is a swing. He actually swung his golf club right here. So that's where our confidence is super high. And the white is where we're pretty confident you might have hit a shot, but we didn't actually detect a swing. But so now, let's see, I have a scorecard here from the round. So in this case, I played, I had the watch on, phone in my pocket, didn't do anything else. And I just wrote down my score, my number of putts, and my starting distance. So if I was sitting at my house and I wanted to put this round in, it's really super easy. I can sit here and say, okay, this was a 4. I one putted from 1 foot, go to the next hole. Okay, this was a 4, and I 2 putted from 3 feet. Yep, I told you I missed short ones. And I'll do one more. This was a 7, where I 2 putted from 6 feet. And now if I go backwards, what you'll notice is the shots are already tracked. Those little dots that we saw have now turned into predicted shots. And when you use a watch with swing detection, it really is very accurate with our latest update. I can go in here and quickly mark clubs if I want. I'll go to, let's say this hole was actually a little tricky around the green. So if I do need to make edits, I can do that. So these shots look good. Let's go check around the green. One shortcut that you may not know exists is if you click on the flag or touch the flag, it'll automatically zoom into the green for you. So you can real quickly go zoom in and look at those shots. So in this case, we did a pretty good job of predicting shots, but this one's actually out of place. What happened was I chunked the wedge shot into the bunker and then I bladed the bunker over the green. So this shot's out of place. Again, if I want to edit it, very quick, I long press it till it changes. I drag it to the bunker. You'll notice it changed to yellow. And then again, if I zoom in to show you what that looks like. So now it's closer. I've got the shot in the bunker, but this was my 4th shot, not my 5th shot. So that's where I'll go to that edit button. I'll just drag these 2 around and I'm good to go. It's tracked as it should be. So if I leave this round now to exit, we'll save it. You'll see I automatically start getting that data and that analysis of how I did that day. And again, this was a day where I putted poorly. But it's as simple as that to input your shots, track it, get that data out with our latest and greatest shot tracking and watch features. With that, Mandy, maybe let's punt over to some questions and make sure we get some of those answered.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start and I'm going to ask you to answer them quickly because there are some really great ones. The first one is an Apple Watch question. Let's see, where was it? They're asking how you turn the data down. You made a comment about changing the data on the Apple Watch.
Yeah. So by default, if you have a newer series watch, we're going to try to use the full data we can for swing detection. If that battery is too strong for your phone or for your watch and your watch battery is dying quickly, you can adjust that from this in-round menu. You'll go to watch options and you can, for instance, turn off the swing detection. You can put us in low power mode. If you're left or right-handed, you'll want to change that because that determines kind of the swing detection ability. The watch does give you a slight vibration when it detects a swing. If that bothers you, you can turn off that vibration, but all of your watch configurability is here. I have a Series 2 on mine. Again, the battery's not able to make it through a whole round, but it can make it through 13 holes or so. what I like to do is have it fully on in the fully enabled mode. And then when I get that little buzz that says there's 10% battery life, that's when I put it in low power mode for the rest of the round. And it usually gets me through the day, no problem.
Cool. Marcus Tate is a USGA rating captain, and he's saying he thinks the GPS data is 8 to 10 yards off. He's asking if you can adjust the readings.
Maybe that's a specific course question, or he's saying that in general that it's off.
I'm not sure. He didn't specify, but as you know, I thought that was an interesting question just based on his.
So I haven't experienced that to where it's been off. There have been a few maybe locations where the maps and the GPS don't necessarily line up. I think that's relatively rare. We do use Google Maps as our maps provider. So whenever they update maps, we get those maps. If you have a specific case or you can send me a specific example, I'd be happy to look at it and see if we can improve it there.
Yeah, Marcus, if you would not mind sharing either with like customer success at v1sports.com, if you'll send that email over with those courses, we'll check it. Dallas, we've got a question. I play local 9-hole course often and mostly just play 9 holes. Does playing 9 holes help with figuring out the estimated handicap? There's also, are there calculations done on 9 holes versus 18?
Yeah, so in all of our analytics, you have the option to filter 9-hole rounds in or out. I think for the most part, it defaults to filtering them out, but you can change that to filter 9-hole rounds in. For our estimated handicap, I don't believe we currently use 9 holes in the estimated handicap. If that's a feature we need, we should suggest that, and we can work towards being more friendly for 9-hole for our friends that play 9-hole rounds. But you do have options to filter them in or out. If you see something that's not working the way that you expect it for 9-hole rounds only, then shoot us a message and we'll get it resolved.
Okay, is there a way to specify what tees you're playing at each course?
So with our auto shot tracking, really that's not a necessary piece of information because you're going to mark where you hit the tee shot each time you play, right? So if you played a mix of white and blue tees, it really doesn't matter. We're going to mark those. Now, we are moving or working towards potentially adding GIN capability into the app, and if and when we get there, we will have a way to where you can select your tees from that standpoint. But again, I know courses I play, that blue tee box may actually even change from box to box depending on the day, and the app is responsive to that because it's going to mark the shot you actually played from. It doesn't matter whether it's blue, white, or red.
Okay. Let's see. We have got, let's see. Oh, Scott Fawcett with Decade Golf talks about near green approach stats, and with putting, he likes stats relating to where you leave your putts with relation to the hole. For example, short, long, left or right. They're asking if those features are something that you may consider adding, but I think they're already there.
So we're close. I guess we actually have a back-end function to do something similar to that. I don't know that. I think that's a subset of our users that want that. What we're trying to balance is the number of inputs or questions that we ask versus they're going to serve everybody versus serving a few. But that is actually a feature that's on our table, and we have some capability to do that already. It just isn't turned on. So again, if these are features that people want, then we just need that information so we can keep growing that list and get the right features in. But yes, we can do that.
Cool. Briefly, can you go through the price of the various subscriptions?
Yes, again, let's see. Now these are going to be in US dollars, but that's what we have. So these are the prices as they are in the App Store, but you'll notice that we have the free option, and then we have 3 subscription options: Par, Birdie, and Eagle. You do save 20% when you sign up for an annual, but the Par starts at $19.99 a year or $2 a month. The Birdie is $60 a year or $6 a month, and the Eagle is $120 a year or $12 a month. And you'll see there the features that we add with each tier.
And we should clarify that if you are a member, if you're paying for a V1 Pro software subscription as a golf instructor, you get access to these 2 pieces, correct?
Correct. Yes. Our golf pros that are going to have students using this will get access to the
Awesome.
video game with their pro subscription.
Great. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Let's see. What happens to your practice swing prior to the actual swing?
Great question. And I meant to cover that. So if you have the watch and you're using swing detection, you take a practice swing, you'll notice that it vibrates to tell you we detected a swing. We're only going to mark one shot from each location, so you can literally ignore it. Just when you're ready to hit your ball, hit your golf ball, and you won't actually have multiple swings recorded in that case. Again, if the vibration feature ignores you, or annoys you, you can turn it off. But you can take as many practice swings as you like before you hit the ball. We're only going to track one shot from that location with our AI, so don't worry about that at all. When you're done, when you've actually hit the ball, if you glance at your watch and you have track clubs on, you'll be able to put your club in that you used right then and there if you like. If you don't want to worry about it at all and you just want to play, then turn track clubs off and we won't even ask you that. You can just play with the watch and get the shot tracking.
Cool. This is a good one. I haven't heard you answer this. In case that a hole is changed in a design, like on a specific golf course, they're asking how long it takes to update that hole. Is that just GPS based? How does that happen?
Yeah. So usually our mapping team can get to that. Their turnaround time is typically within 2 days. Usually it's faster than that. So if it's a simple change, like the par changed or the green's not mapped correctly, you give that feedback to us either via intercom to V1 Game Maps at v1sports.com. Either of those two spots. In-app intercom is the easiest way to contact us for anything. But you tell us that change, and our mapping team can usually get to it, in a day or two.
And if it's not there, if there's a course not there, we can just send a note through and get it added. How does that happen?
Yep. So same process, either through intercom or that email. They'll tell us what course is not there, and we'll work to go add it. That takes maybe a little longer. Maybe that takes a week to get a brand new course in there. But as long as we have aerial images for it in Google Maps, we can add it. And we have 40,000 plus golf courses in the database today. So that's really more of a new course problem than an existing course problem. There shouldn't be too many courses out there that we don't have.
And Dallas, did you go play all 40,000 in order to get them into game? Because I know that you have more golf data than any human. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Do you handle stroke and distance penalties different than stroke penalties?
So the way that you would mark them is actually, let's see if I can actually show that real quick. It's really, skip a couple holes to show you an example. So the answer is no. Let's say in this case, I hit a ball out of bounds and I'm going to manually mark. I didn't show how to do that, but I can show how to do that right now. So let's say I hit my tee shot here, and let's say over here was out of bounds and that's where I hit my golf ball. Well, really all you're doing is tracking shots. So I'm going to add a penalty. I'm going to move that penalty to the woods where I hit it out of bounds. That looks good. And now really I had to re-tee, right? So I'll just add my next shot back to the tee box. And so now I'm actually laying 3, hitting my 4th shot from the tee box. So that was a stroke and distance penalty versus if I was going to mark a different one. So let's say I had another penalty this time where I hit it in the creek. I'm going to mark the penalty there. And then the next thing I do is mark where I took the drop. So maybe I dropped it on this tee box. But so really all you're doing is marking where the penalties are, and the penalty effectively comes across as a stroke. So if, let's say you had to take a 2-stroke penalty, you would just add 2 penalties and put them on top of each other, and it now becomes a 2-stroke penalty. Makes sense? The other way, I guess, I cover that real quick too, is let's say in this case, I've got a tee shot. I'm going to mark real quick. And let's say I've got a penalty in the lake. What I could do is, let's say I made a double bogey because of that penalty. I'll just put the shots in. You'll notice if I don't have any GPS data or I don't have any breadcrumbs, that it adds some default shots to get me started with the shot tracking. So in this case, I'm going to drag this over here to the lake. It's going to know it's a lake, and it's going to automatically change that to a penalty. I could drag this shot to, let's say, where I took my drop, and maybe I hit that shot in the bunker. And there we go. I've got that shot marked in all of 5 seconds. So even if I didn't use the app at all on the golf course and I'm sitting home from my house to go track my round after the fact, it took me 5 seconds to mark that golf hole with 6 and a penalty. And now I'm going to get all my distance information. I get everything out of that as quick as that.
Okay, how does V1 Game know what club you used?
So you have to tell it what club you used, either in the watch app. You can do that after you take a swing. It'll ask you what club you used if you want to input it. Or in this case, when I track it the way that I just did, you simply tap on the shot and it comes up with your club selection. I should have said earlier as well, if you have different clubs in your bag and this doesn't look like your bag, you can manage that in the settings of the app, and you can change this to be whatever club combination that you have. But so in this case, I just tapped on the marker and I'll say that was a driver. And then I know I hit let's say a 5-iron from there. If I want to mark this as a lob wedge, I can. If I don't want to mark the club, I don't have to mark the club. Let's say let's say this one was stuck in the trees. I can also change it to a recovery shot here, which means I don't want you to mark a club there. I want you to highlight that I was stuck here and had to just pitch out sideways. But adding the club information is super simple. You just tap on the shot you want to add that information, and then tap on the club you used, and it's there.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna give you one more because we're after 3 o'clock. Let's see. Subscription wise, is it smart to do virtual caddy / coach in the beginning if you're doing month to month? What do you think?
I think, well, obviously I'm going to be a little bit biased, but I think our virtual coach option is fantastic. I think we've got data that nobody else has. That Course Explorer can be a huge benefit for people that want to, plan their way around the golf course. And if you do need help selecting clubs, or you're new to golf, maybe you don't understand how the wind impacts your shots, then that virtual caddy feature can be a lifesaver for that shot planning. So Eagle's going to, obviously it's our most expensive option, but it's also one of our easiest to digest options. If you're new to golf stats, if you don't know what to practice on, if you need help, Eagle's going to get you there. Our birdie option is maybe for people that kind of know stats already. They've got a good idea what to work on and they just want the data, or maybe they just want to share the data with their coach. That's kind of what the birdie option is for. But you're going to get the best value out of Eagle subscription if you're really trying to improve.
Nice. Okay, anybody that is asking about sign-up questions, please email customersuccess@v1sports.com. Will and Jackson will take good care of you. We will share all the questions with Dallas that he didn't get to, and we will email the recording with the answers to these questions out to everyone that has attended. Dallas, your app is awesome. I'm so excited we get to share it with the golf world. Thank you so much for your presentation. You want to wrap it up for us?
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining. Mandy, certainly thanks for hosting here. Look, I'm a believer. I said I've been using this for 4 years. It's helped me improve my golf. I don't know that there's a better solution out here to help you improve or understand where you need to improve. So yeah, get started, track shots, and then if you have feature requests or something's not working, definitely reach out to us through Intercom. We've been growing fast and improving fast. We want to continue to do that and give you guys what you need to play better golf.
Awesome. Thank you, Dallas.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.